One of the major criticisms of the socialist left is how sectarian it is. Indeed, if you look at history, you'll find that Marxist-Leninists, social democrats and anarchists are unable to get along. Now, why is this the case? Surely anti-capitalists could unite against a common enemy. No. The truth is that it is impossible for the different factions of the socialist left to unite, even though they agree on many issues. In fact, if a united front of social democrats, Marxist-Leninists and anarchists were to exist, it would require 2 out of 3 of these different political groups to abandon most of their principles and follow the tactics set by the dominant group. After all, their strategies are incompatible. Social democrats believe in the parliamentary route to socialism, or they used to. Marxist-Leninists and anarchists believe in violent revolution. Whilst anarchists believe in the immediate abolishment of the state, Marxist-Leninists, in order to safeguard the revolution, want to establish a proletarian state which will gradually wither away as class antagonisms are done away with. You can't really have a mixture of these strategies. Now what I will be focusing on is the dispute between these groups during the 20s and 30s, a very important time in world history. A time characterized by a united right and a divided left, a combination that resulted in the rise of fascism in Germany and Spain, the 2 nations I will be focusing on. However, before I begin, it should be pointed out that the Social Democratic Party of Germany in the 1920s and 1930s, like most social democratic parties in those days, still believed in socialism. Social democratic parties only started to abandon socialism in the late 1950s, so you should keep that in mind when I talk about the German Social Democrats of the 1920s and 30s. So anyway, let's begin. During the years of the Weimar Republic, the 2 parties of the left were the German Social Democratic Party, the SDP, and the German Communist Party, the KPD. The German Social Democrats often portrayed the German Communists as akin to the anti-democratic forces of the right. To the German Social Democrats, the German Communists and the German Nationalists had the same aim, to destroy the Weimar Republic and usher in a dictatorship. So in the eyes of the German Social Democrats, the Communists were red fascists. To the Communists, the Social Democrats were social fascists, because they stood in the way of the dictatorship of the proletariat, and were willing to cooperate with the forces of reaction. This, in their view, was validated by the SDP's actions during the Spartacus Uprising, where the then leader of the German Social Democrats, Friedrich Ebert, used the right-wing paramilitary group as well as army units to put down the communist revolutions in Berlin and Munich. Furthermore, the SDP also supported the presidency of Paul von Hindenburg, as well as other non-socialist candidates. Now this was mostly due to the desire to keep Hitler out of office, but it still caused friction between the 2 parties of the left. So it is quite inconceivable that these 2 parties could have cooperated unless one of them drastically changed their views. After all, there is really no middle ground between parliamentary democracy and proletarian democracy. Therefore, it is quite easy to see why the Social Democrats and the Communists were enemies in Germany. In Spain, the dispute between the communists and anarchists was a bit different, as was the situation. In this case, the communists and anarchists were basically on the same side, the common enemy being the nationalists, led by Francisco Franco. However, unlike the nationalists, who were united in their goal to destroy the Republic, the communists and anarchists were not united. The Communist Party of Spain and other socialist groups that made up the Spanish Popular Front wanted to fully concentrate on defeating Franco and the nationalists. This meant holding back on revolutionary activity until the war was won. The rationale behind this is that the communists did not want to alienate their coalition partners in the Popular Front or other anti-Franco leftists and centrists during the Civil War. The anarchists, by contrast, believed that the revolution and the war were inseparable, which was the reason why the social and economic revolution was far more radical in anarchist strongholds like Catalonia than in areas controlled by the Popular Front. It seemed that anarchists believed that if people could see the benefits of an anarchist revolution, the abolishment of the state, workplace democracy, equal rights for women, end of homophobic laws, then they would be more keen to fight against the nationalists. Of course, the communists and other groups that made up the Popular Front disagreed, which is why they attempted to take control of the anarchist areas by force. This turned out to be a disastrous policy. Anarchists, who were some of the most fanatical fighters against the nationalists, were killed or imprisoned by the forces of the Popular Front, which of course demoralized the entire anti-Franco side. This conflict between the Popular Front and the anarchists helped the nationalists a great deal. Still, it is inconceivable to imagine a united front of these two groups. The anarchists viewed the leaders of the Popular Front as authoritarian statists who wanted to maintain hierarchy and the power of the state for the duration of the war, whilst the Popular Front saw the anarchists as an undisciplined mob which was incapable of fighting a coordinated war. There is no way such an alliance could have been conceived between these two groups because their tactics were entirely different. So you can see why I think left unity is a ridiculous notion. The left is not a monolith and therefore is naturally sectarian. It really is impossible to unite the left. Now does the same go for the right? I believe not. If you look at the rise of fascism in Germany and Spain, you will notice that the right were united against the left. Take Germany's main conservative party, known as the German National People's Party, which was led by the media baron Alfred Hugenberg. The party not only collaborated with the Nazis during the years of the Weimar Republic, but many of the prominent members also took up posts in the regime after the Republic had been destroyed. This was Germany's major conservative party, a party that was anti-democratic, pro-capitalist, massively reactionary, and ultranationalist. Little wonder why such a party would get along with the Nazis so well. How about more centrist rightists? The rightists that did not care much about nationalism cared more about the maintenance of capitalism. Why did they support Hitler's National Socialists? Well, to understand, we just have to listen to one of Hitler's ministers.
In a Dusseldorf meeting kept secret from his own rank and file, Hitler convinces the industrial barons he alone can save them from communism. Even today, Dr. Hjalmar Schacht, financial genius for Republic and Nazis alike, repeats the familiar justifications.
The communists wanted to overthrow the prevailing social order, to destroy religion, to forget national tradition, to place the political power into the hands of one single class. Hitler, on the other hand, promised to protect private initiative and private property, to maintain Christianism, to respect national tradition, to secure the prevailing social order, and to foster the cooperation of all classes. Placed between these two alternatives, everybody will understand that the industrialists choose National Socialism instead of communism.
Now it is hard to argue that the values mentioned by Schacht are not universal right-wing values. The protection of private enterprise and private property, aka capitalism, the respect for national tradition, securing the natural social order, class collaboration, and anti-communism. So unlike the German communists and social democrats, the German conservatives and the Nazis tended to work hand in hand. In Spain, almost the entire political right, except a very tiny minority of centre-right liberals, such as the members of the liberal Republican right, were united in their hatred of the Republic. This included the biggest conservative party, which was known as the Spanish Confederation of Autonomous Right-Wing Groups, the Falange, aka the Fascists, and the Traditionalists, which were known as the Carlists. This meant that the anti-republican rightist front consisted of conservative members of the military, the Catholic Church establishment, monarchists, traditionalists, Carlists, the middle class, capitalists, landowners, and of course the fascists. Now all these groups were united in their go to overthrow the Republic. However, they had different views what a nationalist Spain would look like. The Carlists/traditionalists wanted to restore the monarchy and put their claimant on the throne. The Spanish Confederation of autonomous right-wing groups wanted an authoritarian rightist dictatorship. The Falange, of course, wanted a fascist dictatorship modelled on Mussolini's. What they got was a conservative dictatorship, no monarchy, with the trappings of fascism. Still, all three of the major political groupings wanted some kind of an authoritarian, anti-Marxist right-wing dictatorship, which made it much easier for them to unite and defeat their leftist opponents. So what can we conclude? Well, it's far more easier for conservatives and fascists, aka the right, to unite than it is for the socialist left. As I said in the beginning, if there was an alliance between Social Democrats, anarchists, and Marxist-Leninists, then 2 out of 3 of these groups would have to give up almost all their principles. As for conservatives and fascists, they have to give up a few things, but the main principles outlined by Schacht before are largely shared. Despite all their talk about their love for freedom, you will find that conservatives are prepared to embrace fascist or military dictatorship if the assets and power of the wealthy elite is threatened. They are gigantic frauds.